Hey guys, it's your girl Eda, also known as the CEO Paralegal, author, legal consultant, legal educator, and of course, your host of the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. Join in on the fun by downloading, subscribing, and sharing our content. If you would like to take your support further, we now have Let's Talk Paralegal podcast subscription boxes. So, what are you waiting for? Hit pause, share, and subscribe now. In this episode, I get to speak with Kerry Heaps, where she reveals how color can transform any legal professional's wardrobe. Discover how this powerful tool goes beyond fashion. Color is a language that communicates confidence and professionalism. Listen in for more.
Hey everybody, welcome to Let's Talk Paralegal. I'm your host, Eda Rosa, and today I have Kerry, which ironically enough, we met at a speaking engagement. We were both speakers and it was really cool. I don't live in the Orlando area, but I often go because I'm speaking or I'm attending. So either or both. It just really depends on the mixture. But I actually was intrigued on her presentation so much that I decided to bring that conversation onto the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. And she actually reaffirmed this before we hit the record button because the audience started coming up to her and asking her one-on-one questions. But I don't want to tease you guys anymore. I want you to hear it straight from the source. Kerry, can you introduce yourself and introduce our amazing topic for today?
Absolutely, Eda. Thank you for having me on the show. So my name is Kerry Heaps with Kerry Studio. I am a CLE provider here in Florida and also in Texas. So I do work with attorneys and paralegals throughout the state. And I primarily teach on body language, how to utilize that in the courtroom and outside the courtroom, and also on the psychology of color in wardrobe.
Which I love. So if you haven't heard our podcast with Melanie, which also Kerry was talking about, that she had a conversation with her off the record. And so please do. We'll link that one to this description as well so you guys kind of get the full picture. But we're going to focus first on the color and then we'll focus on the body language, right? Because for me anyway, they go hand in hand. You can't be wearing certain colors and not having the personality to go with it, right? I don't know. That's just me. Maybe you can educate us a little more, but give us a little, I guess, recap of color, how important it is, and maybe some tips and tricks on to guiding our legal professionals on certain situations, right? Because at the end of the day, we are the customer service, we're the frontliners of the law firms, and we kind of want to empower that, right? We want to kind of support that role that we have in the law firms. So tell us a little bit about how the importance of color and how that matches up.
Absolutely. So just a little background here, because I do get this question quite a bit from attorneys as they tell me, show me the science. Where does this actually work? And unfortunately, even though color psychology is there, it's been there for years. Actually, Sir Isaac Newton in 1666 was one of the first people to discover, hey, when I start combining different prisms, light prisms, they create different colors. And how can this elicit different moods? And what does this invoke? But there's really not a lot of science-backed information. However, one of the things I have always done, because I compile a lot of my information for accreditation through televised trials. So some really good reference points for people. And I know a lot of attorneys and paralegals who might be listening right now might be thinking, I don't want to watch court TV. I get enough of this at work. I don't want to, but I am consistently watching that because the more I can see what's happening in courtrooms, the better I can help everyone else. So some of the really high profile cases I would recommend for people to check out, like really seeing color in action and how it is a tool, whether the attorney or defense team or prosecution used it on purpose, you can see the benefits of this. So one of the main ones I like to point out is the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. I got so much
Yeah.
content from that. Oh my gosh, I got so much content
So
from
did
that for
I. We have
body
a whole
language.
episode on that.
Yeah, body
I love
language
it.
and the use of color. So there were two instances there. So one color I love to talk about is white. White symbolizes innocence and purity. It is a great color to wear in combination. You know, if you're going to court, if your client's not sure what to wear, two colors I always recommend as a combination are brown and white, because white symbolizes that innocence. And there's such a great you know, you just couldn't get any better. And there's been so many interviews done on this and so many media people who pointed this out when it happened. But Camille Vasquez, she wore an all white suit when she cross-examined Amber Heard. I think it was one of the last times that she did it. It was her final cross-examination. And she did such, I mean, whether it was done on purpose or not, I think they did an amazing job having Camille cross-examine her because of the type of case that it was. But I also think it was very smart for them, or if she did this on purpose, choosing a all white suit. And people were talking about the color, like, oh, wow, you know, she really stood out and she was really pointing out all of these great points. And, you know, white is a color of innocence, you know, it just really helped to bring home their case, you know, and so many different media outlets talked about that. So the fact that the media outlets are talking about that, it just goes to show how that can influence a jury. Because
Yeah.
jury members, whether attorneys want to realize this or not, are comprised more of people like yourself, Eda, or like me, or just your average Joe that, you know, again, they're not always looking at what's being told. You know, they're looking at what's happening around them. There's also another instance in that case where Amber Heard was really getting agitated on the stand, and you know, we could see what she could see, and she had a direct view of obviously Johnny Depp, but his other attorney, Benjamin Chew. Now he is known for wearing, you know, very outrageous, colorful ties, which I love. That particular day, he wore a tie that was striped with blue and very bright yellow. And I always
Mm.
caution attorneys with yellow. It's like if you need to throw somebody off balance, you're cross-examining them, that is the best color you can wear, because yellow, it's almost like, you know, when you're out and somebody yells help, people go, what? But you yell fire and everybody goes, wait, what? You know, it gets everybody's attention. That is like the fire sign. Our caution signs are yellow for a reason. It can make us agitated. And that was something that I do think, you know, was probably, you know, adding to that, because she had a direct view of that and it was very loud. I'm not saying it's the only thing, obviously, but it can be used in conjunction with what you're doing. Another good example of yellow is the Alex Murdaugh trial, which he is, for those who don't know, the prominent South Carolina attorney who was convicted for murdering his wife and son. Now, the day that the defense attorney was doing his closing argument, they had Alec dressed appropriately. He was dressed in brown and white, you know, white for innocence, and brown is a good color to wear to say, hey, I'm just like you know, I could be your best friend or your neighbor. It's a very familiarity type color. So they had him dressed appropriately. However, sitting directly behind him was a gentleman dressed in yellow, a light yellow suit, darker yellow shirt, and then a very intense yellow tie. And when I was watching this live, my mother was actually with me, and I asked her, I said, where does your eye go? You know, because they had the camera right on Alec, but your eye went to that yellow suit every single time. So I knew
Mm.
those jurors, same thing. They're looking directly at that yellow. It gets you agitated. It gets you, it's kind of like, come on already. Like they're not focusing on the words, they're focusing on that color. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that's why he was found guilty. However, I did make a comment. I was like, you know, I think they're probably going to come back with a verdict, probably tomorrow. And they all said it in record time. They delivered a verdict of guilty, like within an hour or 2 hours. You know, everybody was shocked by that. And, you know, afterwards, same thing. Who stole the show from Alec Murdaugh that day? That was the headlines. And it was the guy in the yellow suit. When I found out later, it was Wendell Butterfield is the guy's name. He was there for security reasons. And he even
Mm.
said, I didn't, you know, my wife picks out my clothes. That's what she picked out for me that day. But I thought if that was a move on the prosecution's part, kudos to them, you know,
Right.
because it really can help to elicit feelings and emotions, and making people, you know, whether it's working together or getting upset, you know, you can use it as a tool in conjunction with your case. So That's
Yeah,
kind of my
and for
overview.
no, and I love it, and that was great, by the way. I like bold colors personally, but I personally had to learn this as well. Like my go-to colors when I'm trying to be powerful and be in my element are black and red. Those are my two
Mhm,
colors that I like because I know the black is kind of like down, and then the red pops, right? So it's not like all
mhm.
red with black. It's more all black with a pop of red, and it's because well, I have red hair too, so that kind of that kind of goes with everything. It's not even a branding thing because honestly,
Mhm,
our brands are blue, gold, and white, I believe now. And so
mhm,
we change it like every so often. But those are our main colors. And so everybody's like, "Where did you come up with this red and black?" And everybody's like, "You should represent your brand the whole time and this and that." And then at the end of the day, I realized it's whatever I feel comfortable in, right? So I feel comfortable in a good suit that has these two colors, has nothing to do with my brand. I do have
mhm,
shirts and things like that with my branding color, and I do use them whenever necessary, especially in like networking events. I like to use outfits that stand out because
mhm,
one, you attract people. They're just like, oh,
mhm,
wow, I like what she's wearing. I'm curious what she does. Right. And I just
mhm,
automatically never have to go up to anybody. They automatically come to me because, especially the females, they're just like, where'd you get that blazer? Where'd you get those shoes? Or whatever the case may be. And it works like a charm every time.
mhm,
Right. So, by any means necessary, I always say your default is whatever you feel comfortable in, right? However, your comfort zone sometimes needs to be a little broad, right? We can't be all walking around in beige and black suits or navy blue. Like there has to be some, I guess, middle point. So let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about
mhm,
getting out of your what quote unquote comfort zone, because my comfort zone is a lot different than somebody else's. And sometimes, especially female legal professionals, and we spoke about this in on the Melanie podcast episode, they feel a little threatened, right? Or they
mhm,
feel fearful dressing certain way and dressing in certain colors. So when we are, let's say, speaking to a client, we have a client meeting, right? Which is the most important part of our job. And whether
mhm,
it's on video or person, as long as they can physically see you, what do you
mhm.
suggest that the legal professionals, what certain actions should they take? What should they analyze before they choose an outfit? Say for that, for an interview, something important to them, right?
Mhm. Well, a couple of things come to mind. First and foremost, like when I talk about color, for example, whether it's red or even green, like I'm wearing today, you have to really make sure. And if people who are listening, if you have not had a color analysis, I recommend you get one done because red, whether it's a burgundy red or it's just a bright red, it still invokes that same emotion of excitement, okay? Which is a great color to wear for networking or when you go out speaking because it gets people excited. It draws the attention to you. However, you want to make sure that you are wearing the right shades of red for you. Okay.
Yeah.
So for example, like when I do our color analysis, like everybody gets a color card. So like for example, this is winter. With winter, you've got all your primary colors that so like you have like winter can wear pure black and like a pure black suit where I'm a summer. No, I'm sorry, not a summer, I'm a spring, excuse me. So I'm like polar opposite of a winter. So my version of black is going to be more charcoal. It's still a shade of black, but it's a different shade of black. So
I
you
like
want to make
that.
sure that you're wearing the right shading because what happens is like if I wear a pure black suit, like real dark black, it actually drowns me out. I look sick or tired because it's not the right shade for me. So if I'm trying to project that image of, stability and power, it actually takes away from that because people are going to be asking, "Oh, are you feeling well today? Or are you sick? Or did you get enough sleep last night?" Because it actually draws all the color away from me, and people are looking at what I'm wearing rather than at me. So
Mm.
colors, wearing the right colors, actually makes people notice you and evokes the emotion that it needs to evoke. But you got to be wearing the right shading. So again, there's different shades of green. You know, everything from seafoam to, you know, Kelly green, dark green, moss. You know, you want to make sure that you're wearing the right shades for you. So I highly recommend people get a color analysis. Also, too, with colors, like for example, we talk about red. Red is a great color to wear, you know, again, for networking, for speaking. I like to wear it for speaking as well. But what I would also say for people who want to wear it in court, yes, it's a color that draws attention to you, but and it can get people excited, but sometimes that excitement can turn in the opposite direction. So I always recommend, you know, wear your version of red, like for example, like for a guy. Here's a great example. This is a burgundy, solid burgundy tie. This is perfect for like somebody that's a summer season, or you know, even an autumn could pull this off, you know. So this is a great way to wear some red, you know, in your suit. And same thing with ladies, you know, it doesn't have to be the whole suit. It could be an accent color, it could be a bracelet, it could be a necklace, it could be, you know, a scarf, it could be just about anything. It doesn't have to be, oh gosh, you know, I need a red suit, or I need, you know, you can wear a red shirt underneath. You could wear a red necklace or earrings. People are going to see those as well, you know. So there's lots of different ways that you can utilize color. Obviously, in courtroom settings, and I actually just produced a class for dress code, you know, talking about professional dress in court. And obviously, here in Florida, we get a little bit of lax. They'll give us a little bit of lax coming to court, even on Zoom, because of the brutal heat here in Florida. You know, during the summertime, it's hard to wear a suit, whether you're a man or a woman. I mean, you come in there, you're sweating, you're you know, I mean, it's very uncomfortable. You can get yourself sick. So they kind of relax some things. So you might be able to wear, you know, your shirt and tie, but take off your jacket, you know, depending upon what court system it is within Florida. I know some of them will relax the rules, some of them won't. So obviously you want to go with a more classic tone, you know, which might not be everybody's thing. You know, everybody dresses differently. They like different types of dress. Some people like something a little bit more fun. Some people like those classic pieces. Some people are like, I don't care, just, you know, pick something out for me. You know, everybody's different. However, you know, you want to go with more of a professional tone, but you can also utilize color in a little bit more playful way. You don't, if you have a suit at home that's gray, for example, because gray is an excellent color as well. You know, if you don't have a black suit, but you have a gray one, that's perfect too, because that promotes, you know, loyalty, stability. And you can mix that with different colors, like your brown, you know, if you want, if you need people to, you know, get to know you a little bit better. Or maybe you're picking a jury and you need those trust building colors, those shades of blue. You can get the, you know, again, a shirt to wear underneath, or a tie, or again, a necklace, a scarf, bracelet, anything in those colors of blue. People are going to see that. And again, blue is a great trust building color. You know, you always want to go with the lighter shades and then build up to a darker shade as that trial moves on. You don't want to come out of the gate too strong, you know, where you're wearing real dark blue. You want to, you know, introduce yourself. It's like dating. You don't want to do too much too soon with color. So there's lots of different ways that you can utilize that. But definitely, I would say the style, you know, you want to go with more of a classic thing. I have seen some people who go to court in person, you know, again, I'm like, gosh, I'm like, wow, you know, I'm often surprised when the person stands up that that's the attorney, because they're dressed, it's kind of like they threw everything together, nothing's ironed. And you don't have to spend a lot of money, you know, on things either. You can go and buy a suit at TJ Maxx. You can find one at Macy's on sale, and you know, you can get that, you know, if it's not fitting appropriately, go to a tailor, get that tailored a little bit, get the sleeves taken up, or get it shortened, and that way it fits perfectly. And I'm a big proponent, make sure things are ironed, you know, steam, you know, if you don't like ironing, you can buy those steamers now where you can just steam everything. And it makes it look so neat and put together. But you know, you really, obviously, I think everybody should take pride in their appearance, but there's lots of different ways that you can do this that are economical. You don't have to go out and buy an Armani suit. You don't have to go out and buy a Chanel handbag that's gonna, you know, because that's at the end of the day, is that going to help you win the case? No. You know, you want to present the best case you can. and make your arguments, your points on, but people do take notice of what you're wearing and what you have out there. And color can be an influencer, whether people want to realize that or not. There's lots of different examples of that. The other thing I would piggyback on that too is monochromatic coloring, which is basically wearing two different shades of the same color. Like I have here, I'm wearing green, and then I also have this lapel necklace that's it has like some different shades of, like, there's a little bit of orange and yellow mixed in, but it's also some lighter shades of green. So when we wear monochromatic coloring like this can actually have a very calming effect. So I always recommend, if you're doing a mediation or you got to help calm your client, pink is the best color. It should be your go-to color. Now, I hear from a lot of women, actually, they don't like to wear pink, and I understand why. But if you don't want to wear pink, wear any
Present
color.
company included.
Yeah, green. You can wear green, you can wear blue, you can wear purple, but make sure you're wearing a pastel version of it, because the lighter we go with our colors, the more calming they can be. And if you can do more of a monochromatic, where maybe you have on, like I said, a dark blue suit, but then you have on like a really light pastel blue shirt underneath. That can have a very calming effect as well. So there's different things you can do. You can make substitutes as you go along. But the biggest thing I would say that I would stress is make sure you're wearing the colors that are right for you.
Are you a law firm owner juggling family life and business management? Do cash flow issues, high turnover, and untrained staff leave you feeling overwhelmed? It's time for change. Introducing Eda Rosa LLC, your go-to partner for law firm operations management and staff training. With over 2 decades of experience, we specialize in helping law firm owners create efficient, profitable, and well-trained teams. From tailored staff training programs to bilingual solutions, we help bridge the gap between attorneys and their teams, making your firm run smoothly while you focus on what matters most. At Eda Rosa LLC, we believe in transforming the legal industry from the inside out. Let's work together to build the law firm you've always dreamed of. Ready to take control of your law firm success? Visit www.edarosallc.com today.
So yeah,
The
let's
shades.
kind of hone in on that. You recommended a color analysis. So if somebody was interested in, we can all Google it or ChatGPT it, but is there a specific place where someone can do that, whether online or in person, or how would they get started?
Well, I always recommend, if you would rather do something in person, you can, do a quick Google search for image consultants in your area. I do recommend that when you're searching for that, make sure that the person has some type of either a certification in color, or they have been doing it for a really, really long time. I actually do these online. I've been doing them online since 2006. So I have a very accurate process for that. And I let people know what their season is. They get for the attorneys, I do kind of a printout for a color emotion chart. So they know which colors to go to. Like, so if they're in autumn, what their versions of pink would be that, they can wear for more calming colors. What are their versions of blue and so forth, and what they should be using it for. So I do mine online. So, there's a lot of different things out there. I've seen a lot of stuff pop up on TikTok. But honestly, I don't know how. I always find that when I look at the comments for things like that, people are always questioning, well, they told me I was because a lot of the image consultants now do it differently than the way I was taught to do it, which I'm very old school. There's 4 seasons and that's it. Well, now it's like they want to have 12 or 13 of them, and telling people, hey, you're a light summer or you're a dark spring. And it's like, you're either one of those 4 seasons, and you're either warm or cool. That's pretty much how it goes. But a lot of people do question that. They're like, hey, I don't really like these colors. This is not what I would gravitate towards. So just do your due diligence and research, and go with somebody, that you're confident with. But, I do recommend, if people are more comfortable with somebody doing it in person, you just want to do a quick Google search and see who's within driving distance of where you're at.
I like that. Awesome. All right. So let's get on to body image, right? How does this kind of translate to your body image? I know the more comfortable you are in your clothes, the more you feel confident, and that kind of transcends, which is always important when you are either in mediation or, interrogating someone or questioning on the stand or interviewing for a job. It's very I guess easier, right? Because you feel confident and comfortable. Like I realize now that I'm interviewing for an executive assistant, and even though I'm doing them on video, I sometimes feel like they're fidgeting and they're fixing their
Mhm.
shirts and their blazers, and you can kind of tell that they don't either it doesn't fit well or they're just not comfortable. And then even though I'm not sure what it is, it could be that they're
Mhm.
nervous, a trigger, but that's kind of like distracting, right? So I'm trying to see what's happening, right? And,
Mhm.
and it's distracting me. So how can we, I guess, better ourselves when we are getting comfortable in our own skin, right? Because we don't, sometimes we feel maybe we don't feel that we're as confident or prepared or you name it, label it. So how does that, a lot of people don't realize that, right? Like I know I talk a lot with my hands and I've been really trying to figure that one out. I usually have a pen in my hand, I'm writing, so I don't interrupt people. Like there's little things that I've taken upon myself because I've kind of realized that, especially the more I look at myself in the camera and I see myself talking.
Mhm.
But how can we figure that out, right? Like how can that transcend throughout?
So a few things I would recommend with when you do kind of a review of your image, take a look at your body language. So your body language is how we communicate non-verbally with others, and body language can be very it's a lifelong learning process. I've been studying it a long time. I'll continue to study it because it's human nature. So what I always recommend is you want to take a look at your own body language. And one of the best ways you can do that, there's actually two ways you can do that. Number one, if you have a full length mirror at home, put that in front of you, like while you're talking on the phone, while you're working in general, and just try to make sure you're glancing at yourself and seeing what you're doing, because sometimes when we do this it's like, oh wow, I didn't know I talked with my hands so much. Or I because I'm another one of those people too, I use my hands a lot, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're just more animated, so to speak. So but it's all in how we use our hands too, that other people are evaluating. So the first thing I would say is posture. Posture is extremely important. You always want to be sitting up straight, standing up straight with your shoulders back, and having your head held high as well. Now, I've talked to a lot of people. They're like, hey, I do a lot of stuff on Zoom. We do Zoom mediations. We do Zoom pre-trial conferences. And by the end of the day, my shoulders are slumped over and I'm just tired and I just want to go home. So one thing I would recommend for everybody, and I have it right here actually, it's called a posture belt. This kind of looks like a little harness, like a skydiving harness. If you go to Google and type in um, uh, posture belt and then hit the enter key, lots of different options will pop up for you. And what this is, it's a one size fits all. There's Velcro straps on it. You put it on over, your shoulders, and you adjust it with the Velcro straps. So what this does is it pulls your shoulders back. It forces your back to stand up straight so your neck will be held high. So you look more engaged when you're doing a Zoom call or a Zoom pre, whatever you're doing on Zoom. Okay. Now, what I always recommend, you can put this on underneath your clothes. You can put it on over your, like if you have on a shirt, put it on over your shirt, then put your jacket on over it. Nobody's going to know you're wearing it. Okay. But it does help with your posture, and which is good for your wellness anyway. But it's also really good because it makes you appear more engaged on camera. And also
Right.
in person, you can wear them in person as well. So if posture has been an issue for you, you want to fix that, because good posture not only shows good confidence in yourself, it shows good confidence in the situation, whatever that may be, whatever situation you're in or you're representing your client in. So it's really, really important to have good posture. The second thing I would recommend is look at your eye contact. Are you having trouble with eye contact? Do you not look people in the eye, whether that's on Zoom or whether that's, in person? do a check on your eye contact. Are you looking at people, in the eye? Now, with direct eye contact, I would say with this, we want to be doing direct eye contact 70 to 80% of the time. When we do 100% direct eye contact, that's considered a stare down tactic, a bullying tactic. So we don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that you're
that's
looking
creepy.
down. Yeah, exactly. And I have had people who have done that to me, and I'm like, this is really weird. I don't like this. It's so uncomfortable. But you don't want to do that. You want to look down, look away, and just glance down. It doesn't have to be 100%, but are you looking people in the eye? Because when you do that, when we look in each other's eyes, we know, okay, we're being genuine. It's a genuine person gesture, that people will look for, that they feel comfortable with. The third thing I would say is your personal space. Every single human being on this planet has their own circle of personal space, unless you are a child, an intimate partner, or a family member. They don't want anybody infiltrating that space unless it's that person. I find for most people, this is going to be at arm's length. If you were to take your arm and extend it all the way out and like basically draw an imaginary circle around your body with that, that's typically somebody's personal space. Now, for some people, it might only go to their elbow. For others, it might extend past their arm. Everybody's different. So with your personal space, are you invading other people's personal space? Are you letting people, because if people are getting too close to you, you'll find you'll either lean back or you'll take a step back because they're in your personal space. So it can kind of be, sometimes it can be a little standoffish. I would just say if you have to do that, when you're taking that step back, still, like you're talking to them like, oh yeah, I get it. And then you're taking that gentle step back with your body and just kind of readjusting it. So that way it's less obvious. But sometimes people do not pick up on that. People who are on the spectrum, who have autism, generally have problems with personal space because they don't have the ability to understand, hey, I'm in that person's personal space, and they might stand too close to you, or they might be on the other side of the room and you have to kind of walk over to them. So everybody's different. So I would say also recognize that. The other thing I would say the last thing with your own personal body language review is make sure that you are not doing anything closed stance, meaning you're crossing your arms or crossing your legs, like where you're blocking people out non-verbally. You don't want to do that. You want to be more open. Even like you talked earlier, Eda, you talk with your hands just like I do. And I always make it, when I'm talking, people see the palms of my hands. When people see the palms of my hands, they see the inside of my forearms. They see my torso. It's open body language. It's almost like I'm standing here going, hey, I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide. I'm an open book. But if I start talking and I get really defensive and I'm like, you should have done this, and I don't have to do, then I'm protecting myself. I'm in hyper defense mode, and it's basically telling other people, ooh, red flag, she's hiding something. Something's going on there. We always want to be open with our body language. And now I'm not suggesting, a lot of people tell me, well, when I sit down in a room, I come in, I sit down and I cross my legs and then I cross my arms over and then I lean back in my chair because I'm more comfortable that way. And that's totally fine. I'm not suggesting you change, what you're doing. However, be cognizant of this when you are in a group or around people or a new client that doesn't know that you do that. I always say when we first meet someone, if we're trying to evaluate their body language to get a better feel, there's 3 things we need to keep in mind. Number one, the situation and the setting. Are we at court? Is this jury selection? Obviously you have unwilling participants. They don't want to be there. I mean, let's face facts. They want to go home. They want to watch reruns on TV or go to work or whatever. They don't want to be there. So they're unwilling, so that plays into how, so if you come in and they're all crossed with their arms, like, or they're doing this, like, you have to understand they don't want to be there. So you've got to kind of factor that into the body language review that, hey, they're doing this because they don't want to be there. The second thing I would say is, what do you already know about them? Because if you worked with them in mediation and now you're going to trial and that person, like us, we talk with our hands, or we're pretty animated, or we always rock back and forth in our chair for no reason. Everybody has little idiosyncrasies and tics that we do. So if we know that they do that, we have to kind of eliminate that from the body language review. And then the last thing I would say with this is don't over examine, because body language is definitely something we can easily overthink and totally go off on a tangent and be on the wrong side of where we need to be. So go with your gut, your gut instinct of what you think is happening, the evidence you have at hand, and then you can kind of move forward. I do have one more thing I would add to that. Make sure you smile. I find, smiling is that nonverbal signal that you're approachable, that, you're there to help. And I do see a lot of attorneys who they struggle with people, getting new clients sometimes because they're real serious and they're like, oh, they're like they are in the courtroom, when they go to network or they're at a chamber event. And it can be intimidating for people to approach them, especially if they have a problem, that they know, hey, this guy could probably solve my problem. I myself, there have been a couple of times when I've had to seek out an attorney's advice, and it's taken me a couple of times because there's always a certain level. I don't want to say it's embarrassment, but you feel like, gosh, I feel like an awful person. I got myself in this situation, whether it's a divorce or business matter, it doesn't matter. People feel vulnerable. And sometimes that's all it takes is for you to smile at them where they're like, oh, they smiled. Maybe I can go over and talk to them about this right now. So that would be the last thing I would say.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer of laughing and smiling. I mean, obviously laugh in an appropriate, setting.
Yeah.
But that's me, right? So like I love laughing, I love smiling, and sometimes like even when you were talking, I'll like smirk or I'll, whatever, because it's true. Everything that you're saying is true and everything is and I see it, right? Because I used to do a lot of jury selection. I used to do heavy litigation where there was multiple defendants and trying to decipher who was actually telling the truth versus who wasn't, all these little things and little intricacies and what we call the little tells, right? So
Mhm.
we did a lot of that. We had a lot of psychologists come in with us, and we had a lot of jury specialists, and I learned a lot. So that was amazing. But I also learned that this translates with anybody, right? So we're not just talking about jurors or colleagues, we're talking about family members and friends and everyday life where, oh, wow, I never noticed my aunt did that when she lied, or like she's clearly not telling the truth right now. And so, like, you're right. The number three, when you said don't over examine, I started laughing because I do it all the time now because of my experience. It's like, oh my gosh, So, like, sometimes somebody will be telling me a story and I'm like, that's not true. The rest of it was, but that part didn't happen, like, and it's so
Mhm.
funny because we're trained that way. And unfortunately, it's like a creature of habit, right? So,
Mhm.
little things that I guess can translate to this conversation for people that are new to color and really don't know what we're talking about when it comes to body language. I want to let you know that it's the same thing as your skills, right? So like if you're that person like me, current company included, that reads all of the policies and all the disclosures before they sign, right? I do that. Even at a hotel, I want the policy in advance. It's not that I'm going to sign and not going to sign it. It's just I want to know what I'm signing.
Mhm.
Or if you're that person in the escape room when you have to sign a liability form, and I sat there and I read that whole thing and asked them, well, why didn't I get this before?
Yeah.
It's just like little things, right? I'm a creature of habit. I know the importance of knowing. Does not mean
Mhm.
I'm not going to sign it. I just want to know what I'm signing.
Right.
So this is easily that way, right? So body language, color, it's just another added bonus, another added skill that you can carry on, and it'll help you. It'll help you communicating with your clients. You'll see, well, what was that trigger? What triggered them? Why are they angry? Why are they nervous? Why are they fearful?
Mhm.
Was it something that I said? Was it the way I said it? Or was it all three, right? What I'm wearing, how I said it, am I being too assertive? Because sometimes we get comfortable with the information, right? And this is
Mhm.
more like what I call auto. You're just on auto mode, right? And you're on autopilot and you're just going with emotions and you're doing the intake like freaking monotone. Like it's ridiculous. I've seen it before. And I'm like, well, now you know why you're not converting clients. If this is the
Mhm.
constant, nobody's going to want to have that information.
Yeah.
So understanding that information and understanding the importance of it, right? And how that translates in your everyday life. Color and everything else is going to be part of that. Body language is going to be part of that. Your tone, even this I learned when I was learning English. In Spanish, again, we're very animated. Our mouths are very open. It's all Latin languages are. We're very ow, wow, wow, right? And it wasn't until my dad put a wooden pencil between my teeth and started telling me, go st, t, ch. I didn't realize that English was very closed. Everything is t, ch, like your teeth are always like chattery, right? And when you're speaking English. So if you're multilingual, the way that you say things can also change. For example, how are you today versus, no, really, how are you today? See the empathetic portion versus just asking a question. So those are little things that I had to learn as well. So for my multilingual, people out there, professionals, I know sounds like a lot, but it's going to be so much better for you, and it's going to improve the way you provide your services in such a different level, right? And it can be the make or break, right? Go refer back to what I always say. How do you choose a nail salon or a barber shop? Most likely it's going to be the customer service, whether or not you like the end product, whether you like the experience. It's the same way for clients. They're going to pick the law firm because they had a very sweet, understanding experience. They understood everything. They had no questions. And if they had questions, they were answered. Same thing, right? That's how people choose, like Kerry was saying about the attorney, whether or not they're laughing or smiling or being empathetic. That's going to be the key, right? In order to convert that client. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, guys. It's literally the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. This is just like a little added cherry on top when it comes to the way you dress, and what you say, how you present yourself verbally, physically, all of it. All of it. This all comes together. It's like a full circle moment. So any last minute tips or tricks that you may have for our audience? Obviously, we'll have all your contact information on the description box, but you can say it here on the podcast as well. But anything that you probably have for our audience to kind of sign off with.
Well, I would say in closing, obviously with color, color is an excellent tool. Body language is a great tool as well. But they are, in essence, they are tools to use. Don't feel like, oh, that person, they covered their mouth, that means they're lying. You want to do more uncovering. Yes, that is a sign that they're holding something back or they're potentially lying, but you need to use everything in conjunction. So I always tell people, never rely on one tool. You need to present a good case. You need to utilize color, utilize body language to let you know, okay, here's what I need to do next. I need to rephrase my question. Maybe I need to go back and look at what was deposed. Maybe I need to go back and look through the evidence because something's not right here. So these are excellent tools to use, for both attorneys and for paralegals. So yeah, I love what I do. I love color. I love body language. And I think, like I've told your listeners too, and I've told you, they get, if they fill out the form, I think we have that in the show notes, hopefully, where they can get a mini image consult for free. And that's something I do on Zoom. So people are a little bit like, hey, I do this, or, how can I break this? I can kind of offer some suggestions in that as well. So, but like I said, use it as a tool, but go with your gut. At the end of the day, we have our gut for a reason. And, regardless of where we are and what situation we're in, go with your gut.
Also, if you're confused, if you're getting mixed signals, right, analyze the situation, because that happens to me quite often when I'm interviewing or when I'm in the middle of a consultation. By the end of the day, by the end of the consultation, probably within the last 5 to 10 minutes, and that's to my own horn, I already know if they're going to sign with us or not, because of that, right? Because of their mannerisms, because of the way they're presenting themselves. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a financial thing. I don't know if I'm too much or too little or not enough or just enough or whatever. Whatever it is, I don't know their reasoning as to why, but I know whether or not they will sign off with us. And 9 times out of 10, I've been right. But that's also experience, guys. So understand that this takes time. This is a tool, but it's also a skill. It's a muscle that we need to use. Like what Kerry was saying about covering of your mouth. I do that sometimes because sometimes I have something in my teeth. So it's like either I finished up eating, I was like scarfing my face and I had something in my teeth and I'm like trying to like casually like lick my tooth to see if it'll come out or whatever. I mean, so it could be anything, honestly, right? But understanding the balance, right? Just like anything else in life, it took us a long time to actually learn the skills that we learn now, right? We didn't walk overnight, we didn't talk overnight. It took us a little bit to understand these little intricacies that come with just being us. So understand that this is not any different. But thank you so much, Kerry. We'll definitely have your form in the show notes in the description, both on YouTube and our podcast apps. But thank you so much for joining me. It was so nice to actually talk to you again. Hopefully we'll like go in the same circle again. We'll get to see each other in person soon. I know 2025 has a lot going. We have a lot going on, but I'm sure our paths will cross. My goodness, look at that. See, this is why bilingual just sucks, because Spanish and English, they love each other.
Oh,
Hopefully we'll cross paths once more
I'm
soon.
certain we will. Yeah, and it was such an honor to be on the show with you. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope everybody got some really good value out of what I shared today.
I mean, I got 1 page of notes, guys. So, I mean,
Oh,
I hope
good.
you guys were writing some notes down, because I'm definitely going to be taking some of these tips. I love the Johnny Depp case. That was my favorite by far. We had a whole episode on that and how it took a team in order to get to that point and how the importance of the team was. So we focused on the team on that episode, but you focused on something different, which I loved. So it's, again, it proves our point that we can see the same thing over and over again, but take a totally different image out of it. So, I mean, that just highlights our differences in our perspective. And that's the one thing I love about this podcast. We like to bring different perspectives, different ways of looking at the same thing. And hopefully, right, in the interim, we are empowering and just growing our legal professionals one episode at a time. So thank you so much. Until justice is served, guys,
Thank
I'll be
you.
here.